Hi, this is Congressman Tom Cole, the 4th District. This is another one of our weekly chats about what's going on in Congress. It'll be a little shorter than usual because there's not a lot happening in Congress. As those of you that follow this broadcast know, last week we came in for essentially a one-day debate over the U.S. Post Office. Legislation was passed to provide some additional money. Unfortunately, no additional reforms. It's not going anywhere in the United States Senate. The president has said he would veto it. So how do you feel about the legislation? It wasn't a negotiated agreement, so it won't happen as is. Doesn't mean, by the way, the post office doesn't need help. It does, but it doesn't need immediate help. It has $15 billion of cash on hand, access to a $10 billion line of credit that it's never touched. And the Postmaster General says he has more than enough resources to operate for the next year, and frankly has more than enough resources to make sure that everybody in the country who chooses to vote by mail will have the opportunity to do that, as long as states don't keep changing the dates by which the mail is due, and as long as they don't launch new systems, that they don't have time to test out themselves. So this week, probably the most hopeful development is there was supposedly a call between Mark Meadows, who's the president's chief of staff, and Speaker Pelosi about renewing negotiations. Doesn't appear that the call, however, led to an immediate resumption of negotiations. The Speaker said that she doesn't want to sit down and do anything until there's an agreement on the total amount of money being spent. Republicans have said they're willing certainly to negotiate, but they're not going to guarantee an outcome. But as agreements are reached, they're more than willing to take those individual items to the floor. And there's actually been some promising progress. Each side has said they're willing to do up to $100 billion. Actually, the Republican side, $105 billion, to help schools reopen. That would be a good thing. Right now, it's every American worker was getting $600, unemployed worker getting $600 extra on top of unemployment through the end of July. That hasn't happened since then. Republicans have said, look, we're willing to do 200 and then went to 400. The president has issued some executive orders, but unfortunately, again, no final agreement. So we don't have a reliable source of income for every person who's unemployed through no fault of their own. Also agreement to spend some money for state, local, and tribal governments. Democrats have asked for over $900 billion. Republicans have offered what we did in the last package, $150. So far, Democrats have continued to demand the elimination of the so-called SALT deduction limitation. That's state and local taxes. It's a deduction that really helps very wealthy people in a few very blue states that pay high state and local taxes. They get to deduct them, or used to, fully from their federal taxes. Now that's limited to $10,000. So again, that's been an obstacle in these discussions. Regardless, I hope we do come back to the negotiating table sometime soon. If we don't, perhaps we can get some more relief when Congress votes to continue to fund government later in September until after the election. That would be an opportunity for the two sides to come together and make some agreements. And I do take it as somewhat hopeful that over half the Democratic caucus has now written Speaker Pelosi and said, look, if it has to be a smaller deal, let's look at a smaller deal in order to get some immediate relief to people that need it. So again, stay tuned. We're going to keep working at this, but it's unfortunate after getting 4 packages passed quickly by Congress that did a lot of helped a lot of people out of work, helped a lot of small business owners, provided much needed help to hospitals and to healthcare providers. We ought to be able to do something like that again and find common ground. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened yet, but I hope that'll change. With that, again, please stay safe. Please listen to your local healthcare providers and state officials. Do the social distancing, wear your mask, wash your hands frequently. We're making enormous progress on a vaccine, and I think that's coming sooner than most people expect. But in the interim, and really until we have the vaccine approved and widely distributed, you need to follow the public health care recommendations you've heard repeatedly from the Center for Disease Control and from our own officials right here in Oklahoma. So I hope you stay safe. I hope you follow the guidelines. I look forward to visiting with you next week.